Yesterday, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin called a snap press conference to make a firm demand of the Congressional Progressive Caucus that they get out of his way and quickly pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill.
Holding this bill hostage is not going to work in getting my support for reconciliation bill. Throughout the last 3 months, I've been straightforward about my concerns that I will not support a reconciliation package that expands social programs and irresponsibly adds to our $29 trillion in national debt that no one seems to really care about. Simply put, I will not support a bill that is this consequential without thoroughly understanding the impact that it'll have on our national debt, our economy, and most importantly, all of our American people. Every elected representative needs to know what they are voting for and the impact it has, not only on their constituents, but the entire country. That is why we must allow time for complete transparency and analysis on the impact of changes to our tax code and energy and climate policies to ensure that our country is well positioned to remain the superpower of the world.
Not long after that, Pramila Jayapal, chair of the CPC, went on CNN and offered to do just that.
I think that we are ready, pending some final negotiations on things we care very much about, immigration and prescription drug pricing. We know senators are still negotiating that, some details on child care. But those are the last pieces, and once we have those, we will be happy to vote both those bills, both the infrastructure bill and the Build Back Better bill, through the House, and I'm hoping that can happen as soon as tomorrow or the next day. We are ready to get this transformational change to people.
Progressives had held the line twice against efforts to split the bills apart, most recently last Thursday, but this time they broke. Ilhan Omar, the whip for the CPC, described it as calling Manchin's bluff, telling me, quote, "It's time to call his bluff. These bills will pass the House and everyone will get to see if Manchin is willing to vote it down. It is also time to see if this president can get his friend on board and get the votes for his agenda," unquote. Two things have changed since last time. One, they feel more comfortable they have the support of Senator Kyrsten Sinema, and two, they have text of a reconciliation bill they're willing to support, not just a framework. But some things haven't changed. Manchin is still holding out his support, meaning progressives traded away their leverage on the hope that Biden and Manchin will finish the job from here. And they traded away their leverage on the fear that if they didn't do so, Manchin would never blink. So they blinked first.
Joining us now to weigh in on all of this is Democratic strategist Jennifer Holdsworth-Karp and GOP strategist Malik Abdul. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, Jennifer, what do you make of this latest wrinkle in this back and forth battle we've been covering for so long now? Was it a mistake for progressives to blink?
No, it wasn't. And I'm just tired of the entire exercise. I think they were both at fault at the outset. This is why people hate Washington. This is why people hate politics. This is why Americans are having decreasing confidence in their government and how it's serving them. I think both of the demands were initially ridiculous. Just because you believe in one thing, your game is not any better. So I'm done with the entire exercise. However, I will give credit to the progressives for not blinking. I think that is framing it in a wrong way. It's calling Senator Manchin on his bluff. I would like Senator Manchin to explain to me exactly the economic impact the $7.5 trillion defense spending bill that he voted for with no problem several months ago has on the economy. If he can do that for me, well, then maybe I'll buy his argument on this one. But until we move towards modern monetary theory and just print the money, I think it's ridiculous that he's calling for such a detailed explanation on this one when he knows what the answer is going to be. And I'm someone who has defended Senator Manchin on this program in the past, but I think we have moved far past the ridiculous in this argument. So I give the Progressive Caucus a ton of credit for doing what they're doing. I think they're right. It's time to move on. Let's pass these bills.
And so, Malik, as a conservative watching this from the outside, what do you think of the progressive strategy here? Did they play themselves, or was this the best option that they had left?
I think this actually was the best option that they had left, but consider what's happening here. We have the infrastructure plan, and as you heard the Congresswoman actually talk about, she now calls it the Build Back Better plan. So they've separated it out because several months ago, this was the human infrastructure part of the bill. Now they've pretty much, thrown that to the wayside where they're no longer referring it to the human infrastructure part. But the thing is that was an issue from the beginning, where Democrats decided to actually use human infrastructure, things that aren't traditionally infrastructure, like your roads and your bridges and broadband access and things like that. And so they said that we should actually care about the human infrastructure component of it. So they've kind of boxed themselves in. They're attacking Senator Manchin in the same way that Republicans attack, or particularly Donald Trump, attacked John McCain when he gave that infamous thumbs down on the Republicans' effort to kill Obamacare. So they now put, Manchin in this same position. So none of this is surprising me, but progressives have actually boxed themselves in. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, that they're trying to figure out. How do we get out of that? I'm not sure anything will actually pass, but we'll see what happens.
Well, and following Senator Manchin's statement, Congresswoman Cori Bush called the West Virginia Democrats' opposition anti-black, anti-child, anti-woman, and anti-immigrant, saying in part, quote, "Joe Manchin does not get to dictate the future of our country. I do not trust his assessment of what our communities need the most. I trust the parents in my district, the scientists who have shown us what our future will look like if we fail. I trust the patients and doctors crying out for comprehensive health coverage for every person in America," end quote. But Jennifer, well, I don't know. Is that fair to say this is anti-woman, this is anti-black? And no, right, Joe Manchin is not dictator of the country, but it's because Democrats don't have, all of the votes. They can't do whatever they want. They have to work with some people who are kind of sitting the fence because there are 50 Republicans who disagree with all of this.
Yeah, it's where we lose the argument. I happen to agree with a lot of what was in that letter. I don't think Congresswoman Bush is a very effective or credible messenger on it. I think that she's made wild missteps since she's gotten to Congress, and she's been an embarrassing addition to Congress since she's been there. However, I think that a lot of what she said in the letter was true, and you have to acknowledge that. If you're going to call balls and strikes, call out Senator Manchin when he's doing the wrong thing, and she is doing that. I think when we delve into, the reason for his decisions and not take him at his word, that's where we start to lose the argument, and we start to get into a tit for tat and back away, and the Progressive Caucus then looks just as petty as Senator Manchin. And again, I think it just feeds into this whole exercise not serving the American people, and is going to hurt the Democrats who have been legislating very effectively. I refuse to take away a loss from what is about to be an incredible win in delivering for the American people. So I think that this back and forth right now is the most unhelpful thing that we could possibly do.
And Malik, I saw you shaking your head at that statement. I want to get your response to it. But Jennifer, first, I was curious what you meant. Representative Bush did extend get the eviction moratorium extended, through her protest outside the Capitol. What did you mean when you said she'd been an embarrassment to the? No,
I don't think that she did get that extended. It was on track to get extended anyway, and she got an exceeding amount of credit for something she pulled a stunt for,
but
which I thought was
pulled
absolutely
it down.
absurd.
They let it lapse. And they said there was nothing they could do.
There were ongoing negotiations, and she hurt those negotiations. And I thought for the people that were hurt by them pulling that down over the years, it was an incredible, insensitive thing to do. So I've been carrying a lot of, a sort of misunderstanding of why she would do that. I don't think it's the issue that we're talking about right now, but I think that we've seen her do this sort of since she's been in. When we are almost on the precipice of having an agreement, there is some stunt pulled that then backtracks into where we were. So I don't have a lot of confidence in stunts like that. I think it hurts us. So yeah, no, I'm not a fan of stunt pulling in Congress.
Malik, we'll give you the last word on this. Let's you react to that, and where does this leave us as a country? Obviously, we're so divided. And the Democrats have some, I think, considerable division that they're hashing out in public, obviously, over these pieces of legislation. And Republicans right now are united in opposing them. But obviously, there are divisions on the Republican side as well.
Yeah, absolutely divisions on the Republican side. We're looking for a great midterm cycle. But in reference to Cori Bush, this is part and parcel of what the Democratic Party does all the time. What she wants to do is stoke fear in the American people, and particularly with Black people. And I think that that's something that the Democratic Party has been very successful at doing, and actually manipulating Black people to think that somehow we're on the precipice of being oppressed once again. And I think it's very unfortunate, but I understand this is exactly how politics works. Republicans have our own elements of doing things similarly like this, but in the case of the Democratic Party, I think that this is very horrible. I do not think that this is anti-woman, anti-gender, or many of the other anti-things that she said. I just think it's wholly irresponsible, and I wish that we could actually move beyond these type of performative politics that people like Representative Bush and others employ when things don't go their way.
Malika, Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.